Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Very briefly, two topics for today, both with respect to pipeline projects. First, I know that the deadline is approaching for the Line 5 closure that Governor Whitmer has announced and announced that she intends to implement on May the 12th, so tomorrow. And just very quickly to say that the Green Party of Canada understands and respects the decision that Governor Whitmer has taken. We know that in very recent memory, there was a catastrophic oil spill through the same pipeline network by an Enbridge pipeline in Kalamazoo, and that Michigan residents elected Governor Whitmer on a mandate to close down that pipeline. We also understand that this has implications for our energy supply. We also understand that it has implications for jobs, and we absolutely are understanding and sympathetic to that. That being said, we do know that alternatives exist for the Line 5 project, and that the existing pipeline network would likely be able to supply our energy needs by diversions. We also know that contingency plans are being put in place by Imperial, by Enbridge and Suncor, and that our ambassador to Canada, to the US rather, has said that while the closure is serious, it is not catastrophic and won't compromise Canada's energy security. And so in this instance, we are asking the government of Canada first to respect the wishes of Governor Whitmer to protect Michigan and the Great Lakes, to respect treaty rights. We know that Indigenous peoples on both sides of the border have supported Governor Whitmer's decision to begin to put in place its own contingency plans and to announce those plans as soon as possible, as well as putting in its own plans for alternative sources for the pipeline. Alors, pour le ligne 5, on respecte la décision du gouverneur du Michigan. On sait que c'est une décision qu'elle a prise avec beaucoup de réflexion. Les conséquences d'une marée noire seront catastrophiques pour les lacs, les grands lacs. Alors maintenant, c'est le moment pour le gouvernement d'assurer que nous avons des alternatives pour assurer qu'il respecte les vœux des peuples autochtones des deux côtés de frontière qui ne soutiennent pas le projet. Et on sait qu'il y a des alternatives qui existent à ce projet, des alternatives qui créeraient plus d'emplois. On sait aussi que oui, c'est une question non, c'est un problème, mais ce n'est pas une crise. Alors, c'est le moment pour notre gouvernement de préparer, parce que c'est clair que le gouverneur a l'intention de poursuivre sa décision de fermer la ligne 5. Dans le cas du Québec et la proposition de nouveaux gazoducs, on sait qu'il y a une possibilité de créer un nouveau gazoduc au Québec, lequel traverserait le sud de la province pour alimenter une usine de gaz naturel liquéfié en Nouvelle-Écosse. Alors, on demande au gouvernement fédéral de tenir une rencontre d'urgence avec les premiers ministres du Québec et de la Nouvelle-Écosse afin de proposer des investissements alternatifs face à ce projet, parce qu'on sait que le gaz naturel liquéfié n'est pas sain. On sait que ça contribue à l'augmentation de nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre. On sait que ce n'est pas le moment d'investir dans les nouveaux projets d'oléoduc. Et c'est le moment de parler ensemble à comment nous allons lutter contre la crise climatique et favoriser une transition écologique de nos villes, et surtout pour les libérer des hydrocarbures et investir dans les énergies renouvelables. And so, with respect to the proposed project to create a new pipeline between Quebec and Nova Scotia to transport liquefied natural gas to a refinery in Nova Scotia, we're asking the government of Canada to please do the responsible thing and to bring together its counterparts in order to talk about what are the alternative solutions. Exactly because we know that methane is one of the worst polluters. It contributes to our greenhouse gas emissions and therefore to our warming climate. We know that this is not the time to be investing in new pipeline projects. We know that liquefied natural gas is not a transitional fuel, and that fracking, which is how it's extracted, is very dangerous, both for the environment and also for the climate. And so, given that this is a project that goes across provincial lines, the federal government has a role to play, and this is the moment for it to be talking with its provincial counterparts about how we can invest in renewable energies and in energy infrastructure projects that are going to protect the environment. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Paul. Thank you, Ms. Paul. Now we will go to questions. We have a question, two questions, one from David Thurton, one question, one follow-up, and then Geneviève Normand de la Presse. Go ahead, David. Allez-y, David, s'il vous plaît. Après, on va aller à Geneviève Normand de la Presse. Allez-y.
Hi. Hi. Good morning, Madame Paul.
Good morning.
The consequences of shutting down Line 5 are quite considerable. So, I mean, can you explain to me and explain to us, I guess, what would be your interim plan to help make up for the loss of fuel to provinces like Quebec and Ontario, which depend on this line?
Thanks very much for the question, David. And we are going to be supplying more information later on. But first, really to underline, this is not the time for any parties to be stoking fear about a risk to our energy security. As I said, the ambassador of Canada to the United States has already made it clear that this is not a risk to our energy security. What we should have done, because we have known for years that Governor Whitmer intended to cancel the easement for Line 5, is we should have put in place our contingency plans. We should have done what she did, which is to create an energy security plan using alternative options to Line 5. So it's not too late to do that. And so we are asking the government as quickly as possible. I'm hoping that they've already begun this to identify the alternative sourcing options and to prepare an energy security plan. As we understand it, both from the independent studies commissioned by Governor Whitmer and by various independent agencies, there are alternatives to get supply to Sarnia through the existing North American pipeline system. We know that there have been times of short shutdowns of Line 5 that have not resulted either in higher costs or in a lack of supply. And so this is the time to do that analysis, to identify those alternative pipelines that could be diverted towards Canada and towards Sarnia and Quebec. And the government should very clearly state that that is possible and what it is planning to do to ensure that that access is assured for Canada.
Thank you, Sorry, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Are you comfortable, Madam Paul, with this oil being diverted to either rail cars, trucks? Do you have any concerns about that? The people
Yep.
Sorry, I'll let you go ahead.
Are you finished your question? I didn't want to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
So I don't think that is, as best as we can tell, and again, we don't have the resources at our disposal that the government of Canada does. But as we understand it from a variety of different sources on both sides of the border, we are not talking about having to divert the crude oil to rail or to truck. My understanding is, and again, we have not carried out the complete analysis that we should have years ago when Governor Whitmer was elected on this very explicit promise to shut down Line 5. That being said, as we understand it, the existing North American energy pipeline system that is operated by Enbridge and by its competitors does have the capacity and does have the flexibility to meet the energy demand of the Great Lake region, including our needs here in Canada, without any need to resort to rail or to truck transport. So, we have excess capacity, as we understand it, in some of our pipeline systems. This is exactly what Canada should be, the government should be announcing clearly to people now to reassure them that there is this excess capacity, that we do have access to it, that it isn't going to this closure isn't going to compromise our energy security. It's not going to require us to divert the traffic to less desirable means. I think that they are in a position to say those things, so I'm hoping that they will.
Thank you, David. Merci, David. On va aller maintenant à Geneviève Normand, la presse canadienne. Geneviève, allez-y. Une question, une suivi. Merci.
Oui, bonjour, vous m'entendez bien?
Oui.
Oui, alors je ne suis pas avec la presse canadienne, je suis avec Radio-Canada, juste pour clarifier. Bonjour, Madame Paul.
Bonjour.
Je voudrais savoir, vous dites qu'il y a des alternatives qui sont en place et ma question est un peu en lignée avec celle de mon collègue David qui l'a posée en anglais, mais je voudrais vous entendre parce que quand on regarde les figures, là, bon, les chiffres que je m'apprête à vous dire sont approximatifs, mais c'est environ 1,5 million de barils de pétrole et de gaz naturel chaque jour vers l'est du Canada qui est transporté par la ligne 5. C'est 40 à 50 % du pétrole aux raffineries ontariennes et québécoises. Vous dites qu'il y a des alternatives en place. Quelles sont-elles?
Oui, comme j'ai dit, d'abord, on n'aurait jamais dû être dans cette situation de crise parce que le gouverneur de Michigan a été très clair sur ce point. Ça fait plusieurs années. Elle a fait toute sa campagne électorale sur un programme de fermer la ligne 5. Mais nous sommes ici et voilà, il faut absolument trouver des alternatives. Et malheureusement, le gouvernement n'a pas fait ce que le gouverneur de Michigan a fait, c'était d'identifier d'une manière proactive les alternatives avant la dernière minute. Mais si je comprends bien du Fonds environnemental, the Environmental Defense Fund, des études qui ont été commissionnées par le gouverneur de Michigan, qu'il y a la capacité et la flexibilité dans le système d'oléoduc qui existe dans nos grands lacs et qui est opéré par Enbridge et des autres compétiteurs pour assurer qu'il y aura un approvisionnement pour le Canada, pour Sarnia, pour le Québec, pour l'Est du Canada, même s'il y a la fermeture de ligne 5. On avait vu quand il y avait une interruption dans le service de ligne 5 causée par un incident sur la ligne, que le service n'était pas interrompu, qu'on avait continué de servir à l'Est du Canada. Et alors, notre position, son analyse, et on invite le gouvernement de faire l'analyse, mais au moment, je crois que c'est assez clair qu'il y a des alternatives qui existent pour utiliser notre système d'oléoduc existant pour assurer qu'il y aura encore un approvisionnement pour l'Est du Canada, même si la ligne 5 est fermée.
Très bien. Vous dites que vous semblez dire qu'il y a de l'espace additionnel dans le réseau pipelinier. On sait qu'une fermeture comme ça de la ligne 5 pourrait engendrer, par exemple, plus de transport d'énergie fossile sur les rails. Est-ce que vous voyez là un enjeu si, par exemple, plus de pétrole est transporté par train versus par pipeline? Parce que conséquemment, il va falloir trouver une autre façon de transporter cette énergie-là qui est réclamée par l'Ontario et le Québec pour les besoins énergétiques actuels.
Oui, comme je viens de dire, oui, bon, d'abord, on aurait dû avoir la réponse à cette question depuis plusieurs mois, même années, parce qu'on savait que le gouverneur avait l'intention de fermer la ligne. Mais la meilleure information en ce moment est qu'il y a la possibilité de assurer notre approvisionnement avec la capacité qui existe dans les oléoducs actuels dans le système. Ce n'est pas, j'ai vu aucune information qui dit que c'est sûr que que ce serait nécessaire d'utiliser soit les rails ou les autres moyens de transport sur le terrain, les camions, pour transporter ce produit. Et je dis ça parce que en ce moment, nous n'avons pas l'information qu'on aurait dû avoir, mais les études qui ont été faites ici et aux États-Unis confirment que oui, il y a de capacités qui n'est pas en ce moment utilisée dans notre système d'oléoduc. Alors même si la ligne est fermée demain, que ça ne va pas créer la nécessité ou l'urgence de transporter le produit sur sur les rails, par exemple.
Merci, Geneviève. Alex Ballingall from the Toronto Star has a question. One question, one follow-up, please. Alex, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much. I was just speaking with the Canadian Fuels Association, and they are saying basically the opposite of what you're saying, that the existing pipeline capacity, if Line 5 goes down, existing capacity can only make up for 60% of what Line 5 carried. So there'd be an extra 40%, which they say would have to go by marine shipping through the Great Lakes, rail, trucks, alternative methods, which would increase greenhouse gas emissions. So can you explain a bit more clearly where you're getting that information, why it contradicts what the Canadian Fuels Association is saying, and whether you're comfortable with this pipeline shutting down and potentially leading to increased greenhouse gas emissions?
So again, a couple of things just to unpack that. First, as I said, we should never have been in this situation. I mean, this is the second time this year that we've been in the situation where our American neighbors have made it clear for a number of years that they intended to do something that would interfere with our energy supply, and we have not reacted until the very last minute. In the case of the governor of Michigan, she campaigned on this promise. She won election on this promise, and so it was always quite clear that this was going to happen, whether we wanted it to or not. And so we should have prepared in the way that she did, Alex. She prepared by commissioning an energy security study. She prepared by doing an analysis of where the alternative sources of supply would come from. She prepared by doing the kinds of analysis that we, unfortunately, as far as we all know, have not done. So until we have done that full analysis in terms of alternative supply, in terms of the existing capacity in the North American pipeline system, we can't fully know the answer to the question that you're asking. But what we have been told by the Environmental Defense Fund, through the independent studies that the governor commissioned and that have been commissioned down in the United States, that there is excess capacity in those pipelines, and it wouldn't be likely that we would have to transport either by rail or by truck. And again, I think it's very important for us not to create these false choices. The choice should not be and should never have been between protecting our Great Lakes from a pipeline that has reached the end of its natural life. It is 60 years old, preventing a catastrophic oil spill. And we had the experience of Kalamazoo 10 years ago. That was the most expensive inland spill in history that happened in Michigan with the same company. So that we can't have that on one hand and then say, well, there's that choice or protecting the climate. That is an absolutely false choice. The government now should be doing all that it can, as I said, to do the same analysis, to develop the same contingency plans as the governor of Michigan has done, precisely because we should never allow our energy security to be dependent upon the decisions of another country, particularly when they've made it clear what they're planning to do.
Thank you, Alex.
Just as a follow-up, the tunnel thing. So Enbridge, my understanding is they think a solution to their dispute with Michigan over this is their tunnel proposal to, I don't really understand exactly how it works, but create like some sort of
tunnel,
concrete dome thing that covers the pipeline to make it, to protect it from anchor strikes and stuff like that. What do you think of that?
Well, I haven't had the opportunity to review the specs on that. I know that it is partway through the approval process in Michigan. We also, we know that it's going to be, as I understand it, I shouldn't say we know, but as I understand it, it's going to be 2 to 3 years at the minimum before that could be done, even if all of the approvals were put in place tomorrow. So I would say that, in terms of the Line 5, the focus right now has got to be on the what if. What if Governor Whitmer follows through on her election promise and closes the line tomorrow? What are our contingency plans? Have we identified those alternative sources of pipeline accessibility that can be diverted to our refineries here? What will be the plan to ensure that that prices don't go up, that consumers are not gouged? Those are the questions that the government of Canada needs to be urgently answering today in Parliament, I hope, because those are the things that we need to know about right now. People need to be reassured that our energy supply is secure and that we have a plan in the short term to ensure that we're using these alternative sources to get the energy to Canada and to the east.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Merci. Thank you, Alex. On a une question de Roxane Ocampo de la Presse canadienne. We have a question from Roxane Ocampo from la Presse canadienne. Allez-y, Roxane, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, bonjour, Madame Paul. J'en profiterai pour vous faire réagir au bâillon sur le projet de loi C-19. Comment est-ce que vous anticipez de votre côté d'éventuelles élections en temps de pandémie?
C'est une excellente question. Normalement, j'ai une réunion deux fois par semaine avec notre caucus. Je n'ai pas parlé avec notre caucus aujourd'hui. Je sais que le projet de loi avance. Je sais que c'est très important d'assurer que les élections peuvent se passer dans des conditions saines et sûres. Moi, en fait, j'étais dans les élections, j'étais une candidate dans les élections partielles à Toronto qui n'ont pas été célébrées dans des conditions saines et sûres, dans une des zones avec les taux les plus élevés d'infection. Alors, notre objectif, d'abord, c'est d'assurer que cette session de Parlement continue pendant la pandémie pour assurer qu'on réponde à les besoins urgents des gens. Mais si jamais il y a une élection, il faut être sûr que chaque vote compte, que chaque personne a la possibilité de participer dans l'élection d'une manière qui est sûre et certaine. Et en ce moment, ce n'est pas le cas. Alors, nous allons, j'espère, travailler en coopération avec les autres partis pour assurer qu'il y a un projet de loi qui correspond à les besoins pour une élection possible pendant la pandémie.